So yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at our Ergon Hub seminar. Today, in our seminar, which is titled Back to Basics, Resume and Online Presence for Job Application. So we have, to talk about this topic, two awesome speakers who has expertise both in professional resume writing, in recruitment, and knows a little bit about online presence. So with us, we have Sharon Mulrus, who is one of Oregon Professional Hub executive volunteer with vast experience in teaching business and professional resume writing. So many of us who are present here also know Sharon as one of the key figure in our Ergon Hub's mentor-mentee matching. So, and then we also have today is Karen Keffenberger, who is an artist, a writer, and a former recruitment advertisement consultant at the Kansas City Star. She has also worked in the field of marketing with her own company, focusing on business writing and client engagement. So we at Ergon Professional Hub are delighted to have both of them as speakers. So those of you who are not familiar with our effort, it is basically answering the need of many, including ourselves as well as others in professional development. So whether it's entering the workplace or breaking into a new industry or skills development, Ergon can provide resources to allow everyone to learn, share, and grow in their careers. It is a community effort where professionals like all of us across many disciplines help each other out through one-on-one mentorship, seminars such as this, as well as opportunities for networking. All of Ergon events services are powered by volunteers and are free of charge. If you're interested in being a mentee or want to heed the call of the hour to help others and become a mentor for professionals who are looking for jobs, please let us know. We'll be excited to have you as part of our community. So just a few housekeeping rules is that with this tonight's event, since this is in a Zoom meeting, everyone else other than the speaker will be muted throughout the calls. There will be a Q&A session after both Sharon and Karen's talk. So, and then if you have any question, please write them at the chat window and we'll convey them to the speakers once their presentation is over. So at first, Sharon will start her presentation, and then there'll be a few minutes Q&A, and then Karen will talk, and then after that there'll be a panel style discussion of the overall question and answer that people have. So without further delay, let us resume our seminar, and I'd like to invite Sharon to begin her talk.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. I'll bring up the screen and get started. Sorry, I'm looking for. Where is this?
I'm not seeing.
I'm not seeing the present. I'm not seeing the present.
On your right. And
oh, there we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, we're here to start a process, and we want to get to set up with your best resume. We need it to be concise, attractive, targeted, convincing, a hit. Oh, sorry. One thing to note is if you're not getting interviews, you probably need to fix your resume and your cover letter. A lot of people feel like, okay, I've done my resume, I added my next job, I'm fine. But sometimes we have to rethink how we do the resume. What you want to do is you want to have your resume pulled out of the stack, if there's a stack. We have to start from the word up, and there are elements to construct a resume, and we'll go through those elements today. It has to be narrative and visual both. And again, it has to be pulled out of the stack. A little story of my grandson went and got his first job this last summer. He's 17, and he decided he wanted to go straight to the grocery store and pass up the fast food jobs. So he wrote his application. He said he could do any job, and apparently the assistant manager came out and took his application directly and took a look at this kid and thought he's a nice, polite kid, and he said he could do any job, anytime. So even though they had a stack of resumes, they called him in the next day and put him to work pushing carts in from outside and cleaning bathrooms. But it's a start. And anyway, he got noticed. So that's all we're trying to do is get noticed. First thing I think it's worth mentioning, it's a COVID-19 downturn, and a lot of people are out of work and out of work for a longer period of time. And I know that makes people nervous about what do I say about my gap. So the first thing we can start with is how to use your gap and how to put that in your resume. First one, volunteering, very important. It makes you feel that you're helping and you realize other people have a need, and it kind of keeps you from getting discouraged. And it is a real job. You gain skills, responsibilities, you have achievements. So definitely put volunteering in, unless it's a kind of a particular volunteering, like if you're doing something political, maybe you wouldn't mention it. But otherwise, you might try to work that in. I have a good friend who was fired from his job. It's about 10 years ago. He kind of anticipated it because of the company dynamics. Things were quite chaotic there. As soon as it happened, he signed up for his volunteer hours to work with people with intellectual disabilities, started to work on his resume, kind of really set himself in motion to keep going during that period of time. And he actually found his job through a friend because he started talking to everybody about the fact he was looking for a job, and he found a perfect fit job for him, and he even had an opportunity later to become one of the partners. Second one, to do side gigs. Now I know if you're collecting unemployment, that can be limited, but there's lots of ways to do this in a part-time way. Another friend of mine was a very successful commercial musician, and his work fell on hard times. Then things got very difficult in the household with the budget and all. So he had a mentor. This was before Aragon, but he had a mentor. And his mentor said, listen, you can be a church musician, then you get your benefits, and you can definitely do that. And he said, no, I can't be a church musician. He said, yes, you can. And he did. He became a church musician. And then the mentor, they talked about part-time teaching, and he did that. But he also encouraged him to keep creating and keep his freelance work up. So he continued doing that. So again, it's kind of staying positive, figuring out what you can do, and all of those things can be included in your resume, any kind of part-time work, freelance work, any of that. Third, get certified or continue education or see where you need to go. And fourth is networking. And networking can be through all of these things. Basically, it's across the board. You can also join online. You can join workshops. Everything's online now, I suppose, job fairs, anything you can do to get your name out there and to start, just seeing what's open, seeing what's available, staying active. Communicating. This is, again, this is a kind of shift in the way that we think, because a lot of times we talk to ourselves, we think about ourselves, what we want. I really want a job here. I really want a job in this. I really want to work with these kind of people. We're thinking of what we want, which is normal, but we have to kind of turn that over and think about what are they looking for and how do we present ourselves as someone who fills a need that they really have. So this kind of different way of thinking, we have to really think about it in that way. First thing is to research your companies. Job posting, of course, is the first place. So really look at the job that's being posted and see how are you going to respond to that job. Then you'll look at the website. You'll go to social media, their company news, their competitors, their employees, and really get a feel for this company. Note keywords. I'm going to repeat myself because you want your keywords in your resume. They're kind of like building blocks. You want to definitely include these. And you want to say, why are you their best match for this job, for this company, based on your knowledge and your experience and your accomplishments. And all this is going to start with some brainstorming. And brainstorming can be something that we put off, or it's something we can start like right now, immediately starting to put words down, thoughts down, pictures, whatever way that works for us. And again, we're starting with the word level up. And starting is the hardest part. It's like any kind of writing, because you have to sometimes set aside time, get your cup of coffee, find your quiet place. But also when your mind is spinning and you're thinking about your resume and what you've done, that's also a good time to jot things down. So you might want to bring your notebook into next to the shower. So when you're thinking about it, you can write things down on a napkin, on an envelope, whatever you need to do. And just put down everything you can think of that might be relevant. A lot of people think of, again, volunteer work or freelance things as something extra, but they can actually be really key for what you're looking for. This is a resume worksheet, and these are the kind of things you're going to need. You can find this kind of thing online easily. Your contact information, your objective. We'll talk about objective later. Education, experience, your skills. Experience, really the last 10 years generally. Your hard skills, your soft skills. We're going to talk more about that. Activities. Any kinds of activities that seem appropriate for that. And we'll start with words. Resumes really do well with lots of verbs, good verbs, strong verbs that tell you what you've done, which will describes what you've done well. So you can find lists like this: assisted, solved, collaborated, all kinds of words that will get you get your descriptions going. That's your starting point. This is kind of a fun one. They did a survey of people in HR and found out what were the 15 best and worst words. I guess they gave them a bunch of words and they got to choose. So and tried to stay positive. The best words were like achieved, improved, trained, managed, created, resolved, volunteered. Almost all verbs. Increased. Then you have ideas. Under budget, that was popular, one. Then the worst words, which tend to be buzzwords and that kind of thing. Be careful of these. These can be really irritating. Best of breed, I haven't heard, but apparently it was not popular. Or go-getter, think outside the box. There's a cliche for you, think outside the box. Synergy, go-to person. And we'll talk some more about some soft skills. But what you're going to have to do with soft skills is kind of back it up with what you've actually done with those soft skills. So just an idea. I don't think you have to worry too much, but I think you get the idea that you're talking about action and not just some descriptors that are not necessarily helpful. Hard worker, hopefully that's true, but it may not be helpful to say quite like that. Resume elements. So of course we can't just have verbs. This is the kind of formulation that you'll make for your descriptions. Developed tiered triage system that eliminated 40% of JIRA ticket backlog in less than 8 weeks. And the key things here are you have the uncommon or industry words, basically your nouns that are specific to your to what you're talking about. Your action words, of course. The measurable metrics, and we'll talk about that more, but it's really important that you somehow quantify or you fill out this description in such a way that people have a feel for what you've accomplished. So you've got eliminated 40%, and you've got in 8 weeks. So again, you've got time frames, you've got amounts, you've dollars. Just think numbers. Where can I put numbers? Measurable metrics. Some formatting tips. 11 to 12 point professional font. Unless you're a graphic artist and you're going for a graphic art job, don't go too crazy. Keep it simple and easy to read and easy to find the pieces. Large headings are okay. You go easy on bold and italics. People just get going with all this. And italics are actually have a specific function for titles of books, titles of publications, especially with a CV. Avoid underlining. Underlining almost has no place anymore. A 1-inch margin around the page. You can fudge with that, but not too much. There needs to be some space. 1 page is normal. 2, if necessary. You almost have to be able to justify it. You don't want to be padding it with space. You don't want to be padding words. You want everything to be really concise and useful. Everything has to work toward making your impression. Resume formats. We'll talk about this briefly. The chronological one is best for those whose work history is closely related to the desired job. Chronological means you basically have your first statement, maybe some skills, and then go straight into job 1, the most recent, then going backwards. Most employers feel that that is a safe way. If you start to move things around, they get a little nervous and they want to make sure that the gaps are accounted for. But you can do a functional resume, which is for those who want to highlight their skills or seeking a career change. And we can look at some examples. There's different ways to do that. Where you're not putting your first job first, you're actually putting some achievements and skills first. And hybrid for those who want to mix of skills and work experiences. There are different ways to construct these. Here are some examples that I think are useful. Take the top one is a mid-level professional sample. So you've got your name and address and email address, and email address should not be too funky, by the way. Then you have the professional summary in this case, who the person is, and with some areas of expertise. So you've got some skills right up in the beginning. Then goes straight into professional experience, the current job, and then it would go on from there. Education would be listed afterward because the person's already in the workforce. The education is kind of secondary at that point. The junior level on the right, that shows, goes straight into the work experience, not so much there, maybe it's lighter on the skills, but those things are included in the description of the job. And then you've got the recent college grad who's going to put education first, and then they'll add the experience, which maybe internships or that kind of thing. The objective statement or executive summary. It should have no title. The reason is that when your resume gets searched online, you don't have to use up 2 words, objective statement, executive summary. It'll go straight into you know, professional engineer with 6 years experience or whatever. So no need for a title. Start strong. Again, the first words will show up, so you say who you are. An objective statement is the job you want and your qualifications. Objective statements have kind of fallen on hard times, and I think for the same reason that I was talking about with communications is you're saying, this is the job that I want, and it's not really useful. Instead, what you're going to do with the executive summary normally is offer what are your abilities and your experience. What do you do, and what achievements have you done with those? You can place your keywords there that you need scanned, although keywords can go in anywhere, but it can be useful. You can use this section to target a particular job. So one nice way to change it up for each job is to only change that summary on your resume. And you'll summarize in 3 to 5 sentences. There we go. Okay. Job experience. So now we'll get into the elements of the resume. This is kind of the core. Also, it's important to kind of get it up there as soon as you can, because sometimes people put a lot of space. They got their executive summary, they've got their skills, and then way down on the bottom, they start out with a job experience part. And that's really important. I wouldn't do that. I would try to get that up farther on the page so people see that right away. Unless, again, you're using it, the functional resume in a different way. So, of course, you'll use current and previous work, locations and dates, generally from the last 10 years, unless you need to bring some experience forward. Measurable achievements and recognitions, anything concrete that you can describe. You'll want to quantify that experience with the amounts, time frames, etc. How many people did you manage on a project? When was the project finished? You know, what percentage of sales were increased over the quarter? You'll use your verbs, past and present. So present jobs, all present verbs. Past jobs, all past verbs. Scannable keywords, consistent grammar. It's important in the construction that you write it so it flows, so you have the same construction. You start with the verb and you make your statement. Start with the verb and make your statement. Clear, concise, not padded with obvious tasks. Sometimes people put in all these tasks that they did at their job, like it's the job description itself. You don't need to do that. I think you need to keep it really concise so they know the important things that you did. And bulleted points are preferable to long paragraphs because they're easier to see. Don't bullet fewer than 3, but otherwise bullets are a nice way to break up those pieces. Skills, hard skills are very useful. Languages, software, your credentials, your leadership, your marketing, equipment. Try to get those in. Those are useful. Versus soft skills and interpersonal, creativity, organized, etc. And soft skills are important, as Karen reminded me. We've had this discussion. The key is to give evidence of them, not just to give a list of nice adjectives about yourself, because that's not convincing. Like hard worker, for example, you'd have to really show how you did that. Then make sure that you add the skills that are needed for the target job, if you have those skills, hopefully. List your current strengths, not your aspirations. And the skills can have its own section. We'll look at a couple of examples. And again, remember your keywords. I'm being very repetitive. Don't be repetitive in your resume, though. Soft skills examples. So collaboration is a soft skill, but here they said, collaborated with a team of 5 to deliver project ABC within 5 days of project initiation to completion. So you've matched a soft skill with an achievement. Empathy. Handle all customer complaints and empathize while resolving issues with companies' refund software, reducing customer turnover by 50% in 3 months. I actually changed that. The original one was much more wordy, but I grabbed those. Achievements, just to throw everything out here. New sales, money saved, goals met, time optimized, problems solved, innovative ideas, procedures initiated, projects completed, awards and recognitions. Sometimes it's good to talk to former colleagues. You know, people do talk about their old jobs and kind of remember what you did and get those on your resume. All right, well, here are 2 examples of completed resumes, and we're not going to try to tell you exactly how to do it. We're just giving you the elements. You can find lots of examples online, and you can find examples for your particular field. On the left side, we have an example of your traditional chronological resume, and you have at the top financial analysis and reporting, meticulous financial analyst who undertakes complex assignments, meets tight deadlines, and delivers superior performance. So, and then she will go on to explain how she did that. Fluent in Spanish, very important. Core competencies include, so core competencies are basically your skills section. And then as you can see, it goes right into professional experience. Company ABC, it actually explains what the company is, so that's a nice bonus. Explains what the job was, what they achieved, and you got your bullet points. So you've got more of a summary and then bullet points, and then the previous job. Education is down at the bottom. And then you've got an additional technical skills. But you can see it wasn't necessary to put those technical skills up at the top and take away attention from the most important things, which is what you're trying to do with the resume. But they're all in there. You've got what the person can do. And then on the right, you have, this is more of the functional resume. You've got the qualifications here. And actually, kind of read between the lines, it looks like there was a gap in employment. Selected accomplishments, professional experience. So in this case, they're summarizing what they have done in their different jobs. And then the employment history is just listing where they worked. So it is another option, but again, there's a bit of a prejudice against this kind of resume. So just take it for what it's worth and see how it works for you. Again, education is at the end because both of these people have, you know, quite a bit of work experience. So in my final slide, just suggesting that you ask for help. The fact you're here, of course, is the first step. And Aragon offers resume help. Feel free to ask us to send us drafts. We don't mind at all. Your alma mater may offer resume services and connections. Good place to network going back to your college. They want you to have a good job. They care. You can check out your community job center if that's helpful, also for maybe local jobs. Ask your friends, family, and colleagues to look over your resume. These contacts will also help you to network. So the more you're talking to other people, the better this is. If you're asking them to look at your resume, you're also letting them know that you're out looking right now. And all this leads to the next half of our presentation, your online presence.
Thank you, Sharon. It was really wonderful. So let's see. We had one question. I think so one person asked, is it possible to send the resume to Sharon for a feedback?
Absolutely, I do it all the time.
yes, that's what I said. Okay, so we can for the shortest time, we can basically have the rest of the Q&A after Karen's presentation. So, okay, so at this moment, I'd like to invite Karen to talk us about online presence and how we can incorporate it in our job application.
Thank you, Razib. Thank you, Sharon. It's good to be here. Let's see if I can share my screen here. And let's see here. This is going to do, oops. There we go. Is everybody seeing that okay? Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
So, first off, why do I need an online presence for job seeking? Well, you need to think of it as an invitation for potential employers to get to know you better. It's a way to showcase who you are professionally, your qualifications, what's important to you, and more importantly, what kind of employee you will be. By sharing a compelling career story on your website, you're not only setting yourself up for success, but you are potentially weeding out jobs that may not be a good fit. Some quick stats: competition. Recruiters receive between 200 and 250 resumes for each corporate job opening, and that was before COVID. And only 4 to 6 applicants are going to get an interview. Outsourcing. Many businesses outsource one or more HR functions. So they use third-party companies to choose and present them with the best candidates for the position. This adds an additional layer between you and the decision maker. For an example, several years ago, I needed to pick up a part-time position, and I had to go through a temp agency because they were using the temp agency as a third party to screen people. Once I worked for them through a temp agency for 3 months, then they offered me the job. So that's another consideration. Looking online. Most businesses perform some kind of online search when evaluating job candidates. Somewhere between 70 to 90% now use social media when evaluating candidates. 79% of HR professionals have denied a job to a candidate due to inappropriate content on social media. So the takeaway is nearly half of employers, 47%, say if they can't find a job candidate online, they're less likely to call that person in for an interview. 28% say that's because they like to gather more information for calling in a candidate for an interview. And 20% say they expect candidates to have an online presence. So, what kind of an online presence do I need with my resume? Do I need more than one social media platform? Well, that kind of depends. Do you have a professional job, or is it a non-professional job? If you have a professional job like engineer, programmer, you're probably going to need more than one presence. Another consideration is, are you comfortable with technology? There are do-it-yourself packages. You can do it yourself or package deals. And another consideration, especially if you have been laid off, is what can you afford, paid versus free? Some social media platforms to consider, of course, LinkedIn, that's free at the bare minimum. And you should have a completed LinkedIn profile, but it should be more than just a digital version of your resume. It's also the easiest professional social media platform to accomplish this. Another things are industry specific. There are many platforms and sites that are dedicated to specific industries. For example, if you are a programmer or developer, you probably already know about GitHub. It's a great way to connect and show your work. Other examples, Flickr for photographers, Patreon for creative types, that sort of thing. If you are not sure where your industry hangs out, where you need to be, ask your colleagues. If it's an industry you're trying to break into, see if you can find someone in that industry and ask them. And if you don't know anybody, try Googling profiles of other people that are in that industry and see what kind of platforms that they use. The next choice is, of course, actually building your own personal website. There's several options out there that make it pretty easy. Wix, Weebly, few of them. If you want to do it yourself, you can go all in, like on WordPress. They have both paid and free versions, or Squarespace, which is a paid version. Alternatively, you can also hire a web designer to create a site for you. But you want to keep in mind, again, that unlike LinkedIn and many of the industry-specific forms, owning your own website, it's not going to be free. Some are more lower in cost. They may have free monthly plans, but you still need to factor in that cost. Additional social media, if it makes sense: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. For example, since I run an art business, I have a Shopify store. I do have a strong LinkedIn presence. I put my art on there, and I have actually made sales. I have a Facebook page that's strictly for 3 Trails Art Studio, and I have a professional Instagram account as well, and I don't put anything too personal on there. I keep it strictly focused to the art. Next, what do you want to communicate? Think dating. I know that sounds really funny, but 3 years ago, I was at a Women's Employment Network seminar, and we had a presenter that talked about how looking for a job was a lot like dating. You need to think about that a little bit. You want to design your website in such a way so that you attract the type of employers you want to work for and discourage those you don't. Just like think of a dating profile. You know, you're not going to accept every single person, I hope, that hits up your dating profile. The same thing here. You want to put out there, you know, the type of people that you're really interested in working for. You want to show, don't tell. And again, it should be more than just a digital resume. When you can, you want to use positive language like, you know, I enjoy working with people, you know, not, you know, I hate doing administrative work in the back office. You know, they'll get the point. Some other tips when designing your website. Again, you want to use your website to round out and complement your resume. You want to use templates. There's a thing called dragon slaying stories. Liz Ryan of the Human Workplace is really big on this. So what is a dragon slaying story? It's a powerful story about a time when you did the right thing at work and made a positive difference. For instance, I'm trying to get my notes here. Sorry about that. Here's a good example at my work. We needed a way to get the word out about our new wellness program. I organized a free lunch event with healthy foods, games, and prizes to introduce it. The result was a big hit with employees, and we had an 80% sign-up rate for the new program. Boom, that's a dragon slaying story. You were showing them, you know, what you did, what you could do, why you did it. It's also okay to share some personal information, just don't go overboard, because you want to show that you're a real person, and it helps them see where you might fit into their organization and how you might fit in. And themuse.com has several excellent articles and templates on this sort of thing. Now for the nuts and bolts of actually building your website. Like, what is a domain name? And how do you get one? That's a place to begin. First off, you want to use your own name if possible. If your name's relatively short, not too common, it's easy to spell, you want to use that if it's available because it pairs up well with your resume. If you have a longer, more unusual name, you might consider how to shorten it. For instance, my own name, Karen Kaffenberger, most times I say that, people are like, Karen what? So that's not real easy to remember, but if I did I use Karen Kaffen, that's a lot easier, or perhaps your initials might be an alternative. You need to choose a domain extension. You might be surprised that .com and .org and .bio aren't the only ones out there. There are actually 400 different choices, but you don't have to worry about all those, because what you're going to do, you're going to pick one that just closely matches your field and industry. So .bio, you could even use your country, .us, .it, things like that. Another thing is you cannot out and out buy a domain. You just have to register it, and you can prepay for it for up to 10 years at a time. So you want to think about how long you need that for. You don't have to prepay for 10 years in advance. You will get a renewal form at which point you can choose, but don't let that registration lapse. So if you really think that you're going to need it, because then somebody else can immediately register it as their own and you might lose that name. So some places where you can get a domain name: GoDaddy, Bluehost, DreamHost. Those are a few that people have heard. Again, depending on your technical expertise, you might do better with a package deal. Package deals often include that domain, and you still get to choose it. And then you get the hosting of the website. You get a professional email that you get to choose, and a lot of them also have technical support. You're going to have to decide on a budget. What are you willing to spend on a personal website that's going to get the job done? No pun intended. When you look at package deals, before choosing a company, you want to check reviews and see what issues others may have. Just because your friend had great success with WordPress doesn't mean that you will, because maybe you don't have as much expertise or you don't want to fiddle with it as much. So that's a thing. Also, look for reviews of others that created similar job-seeking sites to get their perspective. You want to look at them and see, what you liked about their websites, what you didn't like about them. And as I said, Squarespace, WordPress, Weebly, Wix, those are a few of the common ones. I have some resources here at the end that will help you out with this. So once you get that, then you purchase your domain, you create your website, set up your email, and success. But we are going to go a little bit more here into the content. Here is an example of Wix and Squarespace and a few others, just to give you an idea of like monthly pricing plans, free trials, some features that they have. I just did one screenshot. If you go on that website, you can scroll down and you'll see a whole bunch more things that you might be interested in. The next part is actually getting started. So the first thing you want to do to write your story, remember, this is your story. You're going to determine your message and write copy. And think about when you go and visit websites, like how long does it take for you to get an impression? For most of us, 30 seconds or less, and I've got a pretty good impression about a website, what it's about, how I feel about it. So you want to think about this as well. You want to think about what differentiates you from other potential job seekers. And you want to make sure that that's in your story. Write down everything that you want to include on your website, bios, get your photos, links to your work, projects, social media links, etc. There's not really any one method. Just think about everything that you might want in there. This is your story, and you can always cut things out later. The next part, you want to choose a template and start building. Templates are a great way to help you organize your material, and it lets you play around with it. You can also do some doodling on a page, create some sample pages to help you visualize where you want to put things. Be sure to play around with some colors and fonts, just don't go too crazy. Next, you want to critique what you've done, look at everything, and also get some friends and colleagues, if you can, to take a peek at your website before you have it go live. Does everything make sense on there? Does it flow? What impression do you get right away? Is it easy to navigate and read? Can they easily tell that this is a job seeker's website and what you're all about? What kind of things should be changed? And it's also good if you can get people to tell you the things that they like about it as well. So then you make the changes and get the word out. Put it in your job search materials, your social media, emails. Don't forget also to periodically update your website, especially if you've had any changes, like Maybe you just completed a new exciting project at work, and you want to put that in there. Maybe you just got your new Microsoft license, won an award. Maybe you've been laid off and you just started some volunteer work that was exciting. So you want to put all of that in there. Another thing that people sometimes forget about, there's a woman that I know who was laid off some months ago, known her for a long time. She had a website and a LinkedIn presence. She sent out an email appeal to everybody in her contact list, and it was very soft sell, not, oh, please, help me get this job. But she kind of explained what happened, how she got laid off, and what job she was looking for. And she put what we know as in marketing as a call to action. She told people, how they could help very specifically. She says, if you have connections or if you know of jobs that are blah, blah, blah. And the other thing she did, she also offered to help other people. So leaves people with kind of a warm fuzzy. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, connecting. Here is an example of some of the things I'm talking about, because it's good to actually see these things. This is Sean Halpin. He is a designer. And when you first go to his webpage, this is what you see. He's just got a couple of links up here, like work, about, and contact. He has more pages, so. And here's on his about page. So he did this funny little thing where he put his photograph sideways, and for him, this works. And some more information on him. And he has other pages, but I'm going to go to, you'll notice here in the upper right-hand corner, he has his Twitter, and this is Dribble, which is a big deal for designers. Here's one for an engineer, Anna Enders. I really like hers. This is just a screenshot, but on her actual website, the cover photo changes between her and other photos of important things. Down here, she has a couple of columns. She has work on one side and fun on the other. But if you'll notice, the things that she talks about as fun actually do relate in some way a little bit back to work. So we have that. And then if you scroll down, she talks about how she's an engineering manager. She gives her education. She has a little graph down there showing her skills and her expertise level for all of these different programs like JavaScript, CSS, Photoshop, Illustrator, things of that nature, which is nice. And when you scroll even further down, she has all of her experience listed, and you can scroll on that. Again, at the bottom, you can see she has her LinkedIn, her Twitter, and her GitHub links. Now, here is another social media success story. Derek Richardson of Orbital Velocity, I did get his permission to put him on here. He's somebody that I have known for a very, very long time. This is his actual website here. And here is his YouTube channel. You'll see he's almost up to 1,000 subscribers. And now we're going to talk about him and his story and what happened to him. Oh, and there is his LinkedIn real quick. So, in high school, Derek had a passion for space. He actually thought he might want to be a NASA engineer. So, like many other people, he took math and engineering classes in high school and college. But somewhere along the way, he recognized that his true calling was communicating to others about space exploration and spreading that passion. So he started out doing some volunteer work. He worked at Space Up Kansas, which is a space-themed, user-generated conference. He went to Johnson County Community College. He got his degree at Washburn University, bachelor's in mass media with an emphasis in contemporary journalism. He also started a YouTube channel, and he got additional training to produce professional, high-quality videos once he realized that that was something that he needed to do. He started freelance writing. He got a really nice side gig on there with Spaceflight Insider. In fact, it landed him, and also he got to take an assistant of his choice, an all-expense-paid trip to Salt Lake City to cover Northrop Grumman's rocket test. He created his Twitter account and started twittering about all things space, which just attracted the interest of what is called NASA Socials. They reached out to him. What NASA Socials briefly is, it's their kind of like NASA's social media arm. They try to reach out to people who have a passion for space and get them to retweet things. So he, because of that, he was able to win a special private tour at Johnson Space Center in Houston. He did this not once, but twice. So things started to take off. And also on the screen there, he did work as a FedEx driver while pursuing his dream. Obviously, as a family to support, got to have money coming in some way. So that's just the reality of that. But the nice thing is the New York Times in the last 2 weeks used his video this last November on the Soyuz MS-10 abort animation video. So that was a real coup. And another video was retweeted by NanoRacks, which was the maker of an airlock that was being sent into space, not paid. So that was great. A few final pointers. You don't want to have an unattended online presence with your social media footprint. Just remember that inappropriate content can cost you an interview. If you haven't already done so, you should Google your name. Don't forget any other names that you went by in the past. And the best way to do this is to go into your web browser in incognito mode and check and see what can be found publicly about you in social media. You might want to put quotation marks around your name. Sometimes it helps cut down on results that are not you. And you might find some surprising or uncomfortable things that you really wouldn't want a future employer to stumble upon. But you also might find a few things out there that are positive. For example, when I Google my name, I get a little bit over 1,000 searches, and most of the things are what you would expect, like related to my art business, photos, public posts, that kind of thing. But I also discovered recently that my name comes up attached to a donation I made, which was surprising to me. Shows up in my church's online bulletin, and weird things like condolences to a coworker's family from many years ago is hanging around out there. Probably the most interesting one that I like is a potential customer had copied my email reply, posted it on a forum as a guide to shipping art via freight, and then mentioned how helpful I was. And that was back long before I was doing the art, so that was very interesting. So what do you do if there is something embarrassing or potentially damaging out there? Well, some things are fixable. Of course, once it's out there, but sometimes you can do damage control. If you posted a photo or something else you shouldn't have publicly and it's on an account that you control, try going in and changing the privacy settings. Better yet, delete it. And moving forward, just remember to think before you post. If there's something out there that's damaging that you can't really control, it's just out there, be prepared to respond if you're asked about it. And if it's super bad and you're absolutely sure they're going to see it and not give you an interview, then when they contact you, be right up front about it and do some damage control. Some of the main social media reasons employers reject potential hires are bad-mouthing previous employers or coworkers, sharing confidential information, suggestive or inappropriate posts, drinking, using drugs, discriminatory comments, lying in general, or lying about being sick. I think we all know somebody who made a post and said, "Oh, I just didn't feel like going into work today, so I called in sick and I did this other thing." Yeah, that needs to go away. You need to get rid of that so they don't see that. And of course, criminal behavior. You don't want that out there. So that is pretty much everything. The last thing to remember is just nothing is ever set in stone. When you create your personal website, complete your LinkedIn profile, check your other social media, You can change it. You can keep it updated, and voila, congratulations. You now have an online presence. So go out there and get that job. And I'll just go ahead and leave these resources up here on the screen for a little bit. And that's good. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. It was really wonderful, and you gave a very good introduction to how to create your online presence. So just a quick update. So we will share some of the resources that both Sharon and Karen has accumulated for this presentation with our participants afterwards. So watch out for the email after, where we'll also share the link to the video recording. So in case you want to go back and watch some of these. Yeah. So now, if anybody has, if they have any question, now is the time to write in the chat option. Okay, while we're waiting for others, let's see. So one thing is for Karen. So what resources can we use to learn to make our web page? I mean, for many people, the first step is the most daunting one, right? So how do you go about doing it?
Yes, that's true. What I did before I ever created my own website or anything, I just read a lot online. I do have some resources. One in particular that I found on there, which is called themuse.com. And again, that will be in the resources. They have a lot of very, very thorough articles that really get into the details of the steps that I wasn't able to get into here tonight that can help you a lot. So I hope that answers your question.
All right. Okay. So now going back to some of Sharon's conversation. So you mentioned about functional resume and the hybrid. What is it that, I mean, so when people want to change their career from one industry to another industry, you mentioned that the functional resume is something that to harp on to basically, to market whatever skills you have that is relevant. So, how does one go about converting their regular resume to a functional one? It always seems a little bit of it seems a lot of work, right? Or in your experience?
Well, you just have these different elements, and you're kind of moving them around to make sure that the most important thing is in front. So if what you're trying to do, you've kind of changed your focus and you're going for something else, you're going to want to put those skills and achievements and education first, and then you can just kind of mention where you picked up some of your knowledge. So again, it's a little more iffy, but you can definitely use it if you're trying to shift. And also for people who have been out of the job market for a while, that is also used sometimes.
Okay, but I think in both of your presentation, one thing that came across really, at least to me, was it's always useful to have another pair of eyes to go over both of your resume as well as the contents of your online presence, let's say your web page. So I guess this actually also hones down this point that it's good to have friends or mentors or other peers to essentially go through what you have.
I would definitely use a resume service, whether it's your alma mater, whether it's us, or just the community job center. I mean, people are there to really look it over, and they do this every day. And I mean, you bring all the pieces with you. That's very helpful, but I would highly recommend having help on those resumes.
Great. So so for Karen, I mean, how does is it how useful is it to basically to get this peer feedback about your web page? I know you touched on that a little bit. So I mean, oftentimes people feel like they feel very insecure sharing their contents with everybody. But then in the online presence means you are sharing it with the rest of the world, right? So.
Right. I think it's very important to get feedback. Often, we get into our own heads about what we think is important, and we just don't see things that might be glaringly obvious to somebody else. So, if you're not real comfortable with that, try to find somebody that you trust, friend, family member, good colleague that that you could trust, and if you need to say, be gentle, but is there anything really wrong with this, or is there anything that you really feel like I should put in there? And I do think you should ask them, say, hey, what do you think are the good things in this as well? Because it's good to get the positive feedback as well.
Great. Okay. So in case people have questions later, I would recommend people to write to. Okay, we have one comment. So any comments about uploading the resume on company websites or on generic recruiting websites? I think this is either Sharon or Karen can do it.
I'm not familiar. Maybe Karen, you could speak to that.
I don't really have that much expertise about in terms of the resumes on that part, uploading it. I'm not exactly sure what the question is.
Okay, I mean, I think probably the question is more like, but it's like, because like whenever you upload a resume to a website or a generic recruiting website, first the crawlers try to find the keywords that match with the job descriptions and try to see whether you're a good fit or not. That is basically based on statistics. So I think that's what the question is. But yeah, overall, if you have all the key attributes to the job descriptions and all the action words that Sharon, you mentioned, it should be a pretty good resume for a machine as well as for a human, right?
That's right.
Okay, so about Instagram and Facebook, do I need to be specific, that is using only the business, or can I mix with social connections?
I would keep it specific. Like, for instance, if you have just your own personal Facebook page, that's not something I would really want to share with an employer. You do have some employers that I've heard these horror stories of they try to ask you for your Facebook password so they can see what sorts of things you're posting. I would never do that. I would turn and run. You don't want to work for somebody that's going to ask you something like that. But if you have something like maybe you're like Derek, he was trying to break into the writing specifically, for the space industry. Maybe you had a specific Facebook page that was dedicated to that passion. In that case, it's okay. But I wouldn't want to share just your normal, personal fake Facebook page, anything like that. So does that help?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Sharon, for taking the time to basically educate us on the resume as well as the online presence. So I would also like to thank all the participants who have joined us today. So it was really great having you all. So we will share the videos, as we said, and we'll share all the resources that Sharon and Karen has shared with me, so that we can all get going and start polishing our resume, updating our resume, and have a phenomenal online presence for all purposes. So thank you, and have a great night, and see you all in the next Ergon seminar.
Good night.
Bye.